Hello, this is Patrick, and welcome to some more Tesla news. Big updates in terms of full self-driving on Tesla this week. One of them that it's been recalled, but not really. I mean, kind of. So the National Highway Safety Administration, blah, 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 they decided that they wanted Tesla to do a recall based on some findings of the full self-driving beta. Which is weird, because it's not a shipping product, it's a beta product, and it's just software that really is the issue, not actual hardware. So it's going to be fixed with a software update. We'll get to that later. So here are some of the concerns that they have. And first of all, I think half of these, if not more, have already been addressed in updates because it takes so long for them to get through this process. But here's what they're saying. They're saying that traveling through or turning through certain intersections during a stale yellow traffic light, is it really that big a deal? I mean, people are pretty loose and flexible on the yellow traffic light. Some people go through it super fast, which is not really what it's made for. I mean, and some people actually treat it more like, oh yeah, we better stop. Other is a perceived duration of the vehicle's static position at certain intersections with a stop sign, particularly when the intersection is clear of any other road users. Are they talking about like where it stops? Because I've noticed in the full self-driving that it kind of stops early, like actually where the stop sign is, where most people pull ahead. And I mean, it does what you're supposed to do. It stops at the stop sign and then it creeps ahead and goes. But what a lot of people do is they'll stop slightly after the stop sign and fully stop and then go. So it almost looks like the car's continuing to go through a stop sign when it just had previously stopped. And this is different from the cool California roll option that it had about a year ago, where basically it would slow down to pretty much a stop. And it was checking to make sure there was no traffic and that it was safe to proceed, which is mimicking a lot of real driving. Here in Wyoming, we don't do that as much, but I know in bigger cities it's pretty common. And it's tricky because they have to obey the rules of the law, the computer does, but it also has to drive like a human or people get really angry. So that's kind of a tricky one. Hopefully they work that out to the satisfaction of the highway safety people. And then number 3 is adjusting vehicle speed while traveling through certain variable speed zones based on detection of speed limit signage and or other vehicle offset settings that adjust by the driver. So this one's kind of tricky because you can manually set above the speed limit, and maybe they're going to not let you go as far above the speed limit as you can currently, which is too bad because there's a lot of areas that just don't have speed limit signs, and the GPS data is wrong, especially in Wyoming. There's very large sections between Lander and Riverton where it thinks the speed limit's 45 when the speed limit's 75. And right now, that's on autopilot, not full self-driving, so you can't do anything about it other than just turn off autopilot or hold down the accelerator to get up to the proper speed limit. So I hope they fix that, or they monitor people's driving, or they throw it in the neural nets, which we'll see about in just the next update here. The 4th is negotiating a lane change out of a certain turn-only lane to continue traveling straight, which is weird because it is something that's part of the autopilot stack, not the full self-driving stack on the highways and freeways. And it does have that option to get back out of the turning or the passing lane. So I guess this is a turning lane where it's not quite doing it right and being in a turn-only lane but going straight. So that I have noticed that, and that's just that's an issue of paying attention to the signs, increasing their neural net, detect where those signs are, whether it's on the markings on the road or if it's on a sign above, or even if it's like a high definition GPS map, which Tesla does not want to use. But maybe to fix some of these things like the speeds and some of the road signage that's missing or covered or broken or whatever, maybe that's something they need to start implementing again. That was, I think, the plan for like the original autopilot. It was all going to be HD maps, which is what all the other companies are doing. Like I have Blue Cruise on my Ford Lightning, and that's and also the Rivian that I had, and that's basically how it worked. Is they pre-drove the roads with LiDAR and mapped them, and then all the vehicles get the maps, and it uses that as its main guidance. There's options. It can be fixed. The software version 11 of the full self-driving, 11.3 to be exact, has been rolled out to Tesla employees to a wider beta testing group. And along with that, they've released the notes. So the notes are very detailed. I'm only going to touch on a few of them because otherwise we'd be here for like an hour going through all of them. But the biggest thing is they're doing the unified stack. So that's where I had mentioned before, the full self-driving beta that's city streets and then the highway autopilot are going to be merged, and now it's all going to be via the neural nets that are on the full self-driving beta versus the single image detection and where it's not stitched together and volumetric and everything, all the fancy stuff that the new full self-driving is, because basically the old autopilot hardware stacks from like 4 years ago. They're adding the ability to do voice notes, so when there is an issue, you can report it, which you kind of always been able to do, but I guess it's going to be easier to do in the beta. They're expanding the automatic emergency braking to handle vehicles that cross eGo's path. And I was trying to look up what's eGo's path, and I couldn't find a solid definition right on Google, other than it being referenced in the full self-driving beta notes. But I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, please comment down below, eGo's path is what the Tesla is going to do. So if it's going through an intersection and turning left, if there's somebody running a red light and they're going to go into you, it will stop. And it's saying they've improved it down to by half a second, 500 milliseconds. So it noticed the braking was kind of delayed before. When this would happen, this decreases that delay. It's better at predicting when people are going to be running through stoplights and signs, and which is really funny. I think it's almost a jab back at what the safety commission's making them do. They're like, oh, not only are we going to, make it better for the full self-driving, but we're going to predict the other crazies, all the human drivers out there. We're going to prevent more accidents from them and breaking the rules of driving. So that's kind of funny. They added long-range highway lanes, network enable early response to blocked lanes, and high curvatures. So I've noticed that we have a lot of phantom braking, right? So hopefully this stuff's going to alleviate those where it sees a steep curve in the road and thinks that it's a blockage and applies the brakes, or if there's a sharp turn in the road and it thinks that you're going to be running off the road and applies the brakes. Stuff like that will hopefully be integrated with the neural nets and better predict them so that you're not doing the phantom braking as much. Hopefully the updates will satisfy the safety commission. I'm sure they're going to have other issues down the road. This is probably not the first time they're going to do a recall on full self-driving beta. And I think the big thing they're really looking at right now was Elon had tweeted in response to somebody requesting, if you got like 10,000 miles of full self-driving, can you get rid of the nag on the steering wheel to hold it? Because it's doing the vision monitoring, and like Blue Cruise on the pre-mapped LiDAR highways, it will let you go hands-free as long as you're looking straight at the road the whole time. So Tesla can do that as well. I don't know if in the current hardware it can do it at night because there's no infrared on the interior camera. I imagine that's going to be part of hardware 4. And that's my last story for the day. Hardware 4 has been leaked. There's been pictures of the boards and the cameras and all kinds of fun stuff. So this is probably going to happen here March 1st. They're going to announce that new cars are going to have the hardware 4. It was supposed to be the Cybertruck, and it probably is officially going to be the Cybertruck, but newer vehicles will eventually be getting this hardware 4 autopilot full self-driving suite, which is the full self-driving computer 2, which is not going to be upgradable on current Teslas. It's a different form factor. It's got different wiring harnesses. It's got more cameras. So unfortunately, the only way to get it is to get a new Tesla. Although Elon says it's not needed for full self-driving, and it is an improvement and it will improve the safety and reliability of the system. It's still the current system 3.0 will still be safer than a human. So we'll see about that. Humans aren't very safe. That part worries me. But yeah, the cameras are going to be going up from like 1.2 megapixel up to 5 megapixel for some of the cameras. They're talking like 2 cameras up front instead of 3 because they'll just be a higher resolution camera, probably a wide and a medium. They don't really necessarily need the telephoto if it's just a higher resolution. 360 top-down view like a lot of luxury vehicles have. 12 camera connectors on the board. One of them is labeled a spare. Forward-facing underneath the windshield. 2 fenders, 2 on the B pillars instead of just 1 on the B pillars, and 1 in the rear and 1 for the cabin camera. That's the one you can do zoom on. The processing power upgrade, people were thinking it's going to be like 2 to 4 times better, but it was looking more like it might only be twice, not even quite twice. There's not even double the cores on it, and it looks like it is going to use a little bit more power. They're bringing back radar, HD radar, which is interesting because they took it out of all the Teslas. The low resolution radar. I think it'll mainly be used for like dense fog, snow, rain, which is what it was kind of being used for before. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have any ideas or extra information below, and chat here in the comments on the YouTube video. You can also reach me on Twitter. I'm at Walking Crow, or you can email me, fox@twosmartguys.com. Thank you guys so much for watching. And oh yeah, the Tesla rings. If you want to get these 2 cool little custom-made rings that my wife makes, we were one of the first people to start making these things. We even have a video if you want to make one yourself, if you want to look it up here. They're only $100. We'll probably be raising the price to $150 soon, just because they're incredibly labor intensive, and Tesla has like doubled the price of the cards that we use to make them a couple times now. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Bye.